Hi, I'm Kate, Plastic Free Mermaid. Thanks for tuning in to this interview series with Helena Norberg-Hodge. This first episode is a brief history of the world from a big picture activist. Enjoy!
Without a baseline, without some understanding of where this system we live in now comes from and what it does, we're quite lost. And I feel there's a clarity that can come out of understanding the contrast between essentially a nature-based, community-based way of life and a way of life that has been now supported for generations by supposedly cheap fossil fuels, including the plastic. And what that system has done in terms of, as we know, it's separated us from nature. I don't think we've recognized the extent to which it's separated us from ourselves.
What is the foundation of our economic system? Where did we go wrong?
The economic system we have started with force. It literally started with enclosures, driving people off the land in England, pushing them into this Dickensian London where there were no social relations, they had no interdependence with each other. They were suddenly dependent on wealthy industrialized that needed the cheap labor for, among other things, the cheap cotton that they had got slaves growing for them in other parts of the world. So we have an economic system that started with very wealthy traders in Europe using force, using genocide as a way of getting this whole engine started. In order to keep promoting trade, you have now secret negotiations that are, they're sort of the secret out in the open, but what's happening is not that countries are sitting around a table negotiating trade treaties. What's happening is that they're sitting around the table being pressured by giant monopolistic corporations and banks to deregulate trade further and further. And that means, the deregulation means that those businesses and banks that operate globally should not have any constraints of regulation.
And that makes it harder for the local growers, the local economy, the fresh food that's growing right in our neighborhood from being affordable to us because of all this deregulation of the global trade.
Yeah, exactly. So it creates completely unfair playing field. And what we also have to understand is that in this process of supporting more and more global trade, governments are becoming poorer than corporations. Then the measurement of what we consider progress is literally simply a measure of commercialization. So if the water is so polluted we have to buy it in bottles, good for the economy. If you have cancer and need chemotherapy regularly, good for the economy. Both growing your own food and staying healthy is bad for GDP. Community is the worst thing for GDP, because that means you and I might help one another without charging money. So we've had this subtle, well-funded way of seeing the world through the lenses of corporations that as animals, as structures, have to keep growing and growing. I would argue that all the major crises we face today have either been created by this economic system or exacerbated by it. There is a paradigm that could start reversing things in a systemic way, and immediately. Right under our nose, that paradigm exists in the real world because it is about reconnection to one another and to the natural world. It is about a type of re-indigenization that means starting to come together wherever we live, even in the city, it's happening. People are coming together to support each other and often to take action. And I am seeing around the world that the people who are doing that are by far the happiest, most energetic, and in many cases revitalized. What we're talking about with this new paradigm is what I generally call localization, because it is about place-based, face-to-face, living reconnection.